All right, looks like we are live on a Tuesday night for Talk Time with TJ Triple T, number 236 tonight. I want to thank everybody for showing up. I sure appreciate that. Still blows my mind. Here we are on 7/7/26. And happy belated 4th of July, 250th to all of you out there watching. Lots of milestones this week, I guess. My name is TJ Ziba. I call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. In fact, I find the more that I learn, the more I find out how little I know. But I do have a unique way of asking questions, helping people find the solutions that they are looking for. I've got a great tribe to pick from. And I know how to use the internet, which is also an even scarier place. But it allows me to do the things I get to do, which is be here with you guys on Tuesday night for one. And I want to say hello to everybody out there in YouTube land watching the recording. But it also allows me to say, hi, Mom. Mom's up in Minnesota then, yeah. And while you're on YouTube, please do me a favor if you would. Do all the YouTube stuff that doesn't cost you anything. A couple of clickety clicks. Click the like button, click the subscribe, comment on some videos, like them if you like them. If you don't like them, go to somebody else's channel and unlike those. Just kind of not kidding, but kind of kidding. And while you're on the internet, you can jump over to my website at www.thetSWB.com. Stands for the tall, skinny white boy.com. That is he and he is I and have been since way before the internet. So whatever you find on the internet representing quote unquote TSWB, if you don't see me, I would stay away from it. So go to the tswb.com, check it out. There you'll find out some of the stuff that I am privileged to help people with, such as depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief. I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level. I offer corporate coaching, been doing a lot of relationship work still. A lot of people out there with challenged relationships. Well, go figure. Here we are in this day and age. But if you know of anybody that you think might be able to benefit from the kind of work that I do, either send them over to, well, you can send them my website. They can contact me. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's right, no charge to you. We can sit chit-chat for 30 minutes. Tell me what kind of challenges you're up against, and I promise you, if I believe truly that we are a fit, I'll let you know. But also, I promise you, if I feel that we are not a fit, I will let you know. I don't want to waste our time and your money, but I will also make sure to do my best to try and find one of my colleagues that is a better fit for you. Because bottom line, we want to make you living a life as good as possible. Okay, we got that done. Time for the tie of the week. Been doing this since the first show in 24. And this week, I realized I do not have a flag tie. So I'm going to have to find me one of those. However, I thought this one was kind of appropriate, especially with, I guess there's some soccer games being played or something like that. And so this one kind of reminded me a little bit of what's going on. So we got some stars, we got some flags, and we got the world. And Mickey is apparently a referee today. There you have it. A little bit of what's going on in case this is your first time joining us or first time watching the recording. It's a 2-hour show, and the first hour I do my best to get through 3 topics, although tonight I did manage to come up with 4. We'll see how that works out. Hey, Michael. And then after the first hour is finished, we switch things up. And it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or a question, and I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And after everybody is answered, if I feel like there's something I can add to it, that's when I throw in my 2 centavos. But before we get to rolling into the topics, I like to start things off asking people if they got anything cool they'd like to share from the last time we were here 7 days ago. So, anybody got some cool stuff to share? Yeah, Michael, please.
I hear somebody's coming to visit here soon. I think that's going to be kind of exciting. Just saying.
Yeah.
And got a couple things we're working, and things are either going to start breaking ground in the positive way with LMC, or we're going to shift and do something a little different.
Right on. Well, you got a tribe backing you. If you got anything we can try and help you with, let us know.
Appreciate you, man.
Yep, right back at you. Mark, you had your hand up.
Well, kind of cool. I'm heading out on vacation on Friday night for a couple weeks down on Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Cape Cod. Gonna go get some chowder. Go see the Kennedys, So, it'll be fun. Sister, wife, daughter, family, nephews, nieces, they're all going to be falling in the door. So, can't wait. So,
very cool.
Cooler than a moose.
Yes, yes. Hope you have a grand time. And I was informed that our favorite Lenora is once again doing puppy training. Oh. Which is actually more puppy owner training.
Who's training who?
Yeah, very important, especially when you have a Mally. And especially even more important when you have a Mally and it's your first dog. Well, yes, I am sending so many positive energies to that household and that puppy, and I hope everything goes even better than everybody seems to react to.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything to share?
It's kind of like toilet training your kid. You're putting them on the toilet every half hour. So eventually they go on the potty. Like, look, he's potty trained. No, you trained yourself to put him on the potty every half hour.
Yeah. And after taking care of so many college houses, I think some parents skip that part.
I think for men, I think personal ecology development ends at potty training.
Yeah. Yep. Another thing I wanted to point out, forgot to let you guys know if you're first time here on the Zoom, those of you that are watching live and stuff like that, you only get to see the participants who have their camera on. So if you're wondering if who we're talking to or mentioning some stuff, it could be one of the people that has their camera off. Also, if you see me looking all over the place, I do not have, I do have a condition called squirrels, but I've got a huge monitor, and so I've got comments over here and participants up there, and all across here. So there is that. And we don't charge anything to join us here, so please, if you're watching this or watching a recording, reach out, join us. We love the more the merrier. We appreciate getting the comments. But anybody else got anything they want to share from the last 7 days before we get into the topics of the evening? Yes, no, maybe so. All right, well, it sounds like it's time to announce the topics of the week. This week we actually kind of have 4 of them, but a couple of them can be integrated with each other, so we'll see how they go. But tonight's topics are I, you, wise to wise, you conduit, and coaching judging. So jumping right in, those of you that have been around Planet TJ long enough know that the vast majority of my topics come from my client work, usually on the day of. And today is a little bit different. The first one came actually from an Instagram reel that was sent to me. And it has a lot to do with self-talk, especially when you hear negative self-talk or recalling something that didn't go quite as well as you had hoped it had. And you hear somebody describing what they went through. Oh, I screwed up. Oh, I should have known better. I messed up. I suck. And the problem with those statements isn't so much that they probably aren't even correct, is that the subconscious hears those identity statements that are constantly repeated. And trust me, when I was watching this Instagram, even I was like, yeah, I may or may not have done that a couple of times, and I've also heard that in my head a couple of times even since hearing that. The point that they made was, if you could take it and turn it into third person. TJ messed up. It was TJ's fault. TJ could have done this instead. TJ should have known better. What it does is a couple of different things. One, it separates you a bit from the statement. And if you could think of it as if your best friend told you what happened and you're trying to help them out, we find ourselves to have a lot more empathy towards others than we do ourselves. I've noticed that people tend to be much harder on themselves than they are on their friends.
Yep.
And yet, who do we have to live with 24/7, 365, our entire life? And if we're going to be less of a friend to ourselves than to other people, what does that eventually do? A lot of my clients that come to me, especially with anxiety, depression, anger issues, phobias, when you listen to them talk, it's typically pretty nasty self-talk. I can't, I'm dumb, I this, I that. And all of these limiting belief statements, when stated in first person, really reinforce things, even if they're not true. And in a way, for those of you that have heard the expression about three-chair, being able to sit away from the statements, change the conversation in your head, change the positioning to third person, really has that ability to take that pressure off and analyze it. And what I used to ask a lot of my clients is, if somebody were to say those things that you just said about yourself to your face, how different would that feel? And a lot of them, they're like, well, wow. I'm like, Michael.
I just saw a reel on that with Eddie Murphy today. And it was just a bunch of different interviews with Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
And he was being interviewed by the guy, and he says, yeah, I actually got angry today for a minute. You know, a guy says, hey, buckwheat. And he looks at him and says, hey, man, do I look like buckwheat to you? You know, and the guy looks at him and says, for all my life, you look like buckwheat. Because he played it on TV.
Yes.
And he's like, I couldn't be mad anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And yet, in his head, at first, it was a character that he didn't identify with off the stage.
Yeah.
How many times do we talk about the person on the stage, act like the person on the stage, but heaven forbid somebody call us out about it? Well, that was just an act. You're playing it pretty darn good. Got me convinced. Which means you had to convince yourself first. That's one of the main things when I teach my class, Identity Management University, aka IMU. You can be pretty much anybody you want to be. It's simply picking up I call it ingredients out of the pantry. And it's so funny when I get people that will tell me, well, I'd like to be this, or I'd like to be more this, or I'd like to be less this. And one of the exercises I have them do is I have them step outside of the room, turn around 3 times, and come back in and show us what that would be like. And of course, when we get started, it's not uncommon for somebody to come in and walk in and go, well, this person would do, and I'm like, no, go back out and walk in as that person. Show us what that would be like. And the transformations, well, the ingredients were in the pantry the whole time. Now I'm trying to offer up one more ingredient towards helping people with self-talk. And that would be giving yourself permission to talk about yourself in the third person, to kind of step back and see or feel exactly what that feels like. Mark, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I was watching a reel today about Ricardo Montalban, who played Mr. Rourke, but back in the 60s, he played Khan on Star Trek. And when the producer, Harv Bennett, called him, to star in the movie, he's like, I don't remember, that because it was only a 60-minute episode. He goes, send me a copy of the episode Space Seed. And he said he watched it because he had been Mr. Rourke. He didn't want to, he could say the lines that the director wants him to say, but he would be saying them as Mr. Rourke.
Yes.
So he had to watch it like 3 times, and then it was like, okay, all right, I got it. He's a tortured soul. His wife had died. He's out for revenge. And then he was able to reignite that personality. And that's what you saw on the screen. But when he first, contemplated it, he said, all these lines are going to come out like Mr. Rourke on Fantasy Island. He said, that's not going to work. So,
Not quite as scary as Khan.
no.
What an amazing role. Holy smokes, man. He was amazing.
He stepped right into that avatar. And that's what it is. Like you said, playing pretend. And someone in the community once said that actors are the best hypnotists because they get us to buy into the character that they're portraying. So, but yeah, that inner critic is always there, and like you said, we're harsher on ourselves than we are on other people. We can have empathy for other people, give them excuses, but that inner critic won't let us get away with it.
And one of the things that I had one of my clients do regarding that, I said, if you had to describe yourself as though your best friend was describing you, what would that sound like? And of course they start out, well, they'd probably say I'm funny and I said, no. I want you to play the role of your best friend. What might your best friend say about you? And I want you to say it in their words. And all of a sudden they were like, well, they would probably say, I said, well, don't even put it that way. Just start talking. I want to hear your best friend describe you to me. And so they started talking about, well, they're very loyal, they're very intelligent, and great sense of humor. And it was interesting because once they got going, they were describing quite well, but they got emotional in a good way. It kind of choked them up, and I said, wow, how nice would it be if you could talk about yourself like this much more often than the things that you told me earlier in the session. And the look on their face was like, wow, wow. Mark.
Oh, have an exercise if everybody wants to do it. But what I do sometimes with clients is I'll have them take out a piece of paper, or I'll write for them, and I'll say, okay, this name, uh, somebody you really admire, and then somebody you really, and then divide the paper, and then somebody you really detest, where it would be in, junior high, high school, adulthood, and what were the qualities that that person um, presented, basically? What were the qualities that you really admired in that person? Friendly, loyal, communicative, whatever they're going to put down. I usually get about 4 or 5. And then we go to the other side of the page. And that other person that you really detest, what were the qualities you really didn't like about that person? False, liar, um, basically, egocentric, out for themselves, And then I draw a line, okay, now list 3 or 4 qualities you really admired about your dad, if it's a male. And, they'll list the quality. And what were some of the things about dad that, you just kind of didn't like about him, And basically, we finish the exercise and they say, well, these are the qualities that vibed with you. That person you really admired in high school, whatever, you vibe with those. That person might have 100 wonderful qualities, but these are the ones that vibed with you. And that person you didn't, that you really didn't like, those are the qualities that that also vibe, but in a negative way. Same thing with dad, basically. And, so I would say to them, okay, so if I brought your best friend in here, I would say, I just met TJ, but these are the things I know about him. He's loyal, he's friendly, he's funny, he's communicative, he's insightful, go right down the positive list, he's strong, he's determined, he's, and then we go to the other side of the list and, the things that you don't, that he never wants anybody to think of him as false or a liar or egocentric or sarcastic or negative or, and I said, those are the qualities that you display. That's the face that you wear. And, and your best friend would go, how long have you known him? Because you nailed him. Because those qualities are the qualities that vibed with us, basically. And the things we don't like about the stuff, those are the stuff we recognize as a less than positive quality. And, and you want to minimize those things, basically. So, and then I have them rate themselves on those qualities. And the positive ones that aren't quite as high as they might like them to be, those are the things we focus on, and the ones that in the negative category that are a little higher than they'd want them to be, well, we want to work on minimizing those qualities. So basically the treatment plan writes itself. So, and,
I'm glad you brought that up because it also reminded me of how interesting it is how easy it is for people to talk highly of other people. But if you ask them what good qualities they have,
be there a month.
Yeah. But when you do this and have them talk about themselves in third person, that filter, that programming that has been put around, like, oh, you can't, that's bragging and that's pride and da, 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 da. I believe that when you talk about yourself in the third person, it bypasses that program. Because it's no longer, well, I am, and just like when I ask people, worst case scenario, best case scenario, man, worst case scenario, they can rattle them things off at epic speed. But when you ask them to, okay, now you've knocked out 12 worst case scenarios in 10 seconds, give me 3 best case scenarios, and you'll watch them, and they're just like, and the funny thing is, they'll typically give me one, and I go, okay, that's 1, 2 more, and they're like, what, but I just gave you the best case scenario. I said, you gave me 15 worst case scenarios. So there should be 15 best case scenario possibilities. And I think the same applies to describing yourself, especially when you state it in the I, the first person scenario. It's super easy to introspect bad stuff, and a challenge to come up with the good things. But when you flip it over to third person, now you're kind of talking about somebody else, and it's really easy to build your friends up. Any other ahas, epiphanies, comments on this topic?
I have had that experience of speaking in the third person, and it was like you're describing. It was very powerful, eye-opening, emotional, and I tended to get to places that I wouldn't necessarily have gotten to if I was just saying I can do this, these are my capabilities or whatever. Speaking in third person is very different. It is definitely very different. It's freer. I guess it's less personal. It seems as though I was speaking about about somebody else, but of course speaking about myself. It was much easier to describe myself without that egoic conditioning that you mentioned, from school and parents and friends and teachers and whatever, all that conditioning. So very, very powerful, and it gave me the idea that I can speak in the first person a lot more easily, because I've had the experience of speaking in the third person, and I can feel the truth of it.
Good. Very cool. Anybody else before we change things up? And I'm glad you brought this up, Greg, because for those of you that don't know, Greg and I have been friends for a good while, and he's quite the wordsmith, and has an amazing book of a number of his little wordsmith creations. And the next 2 topics actually came out of a conversation that we were having. And the first one is one of his great plays on words, wise to wise. And because I I'm quite a, I like asking questions. I'm constantly asking questions, this and that. And, you know, there are some people that may wonder, well, why are you asking, why are you always, well, as Greg so eloquently put it, asking the questions allows you to go from the whys to the whys, to having the information. You're asking the questions to gather the information, to learn, and to become wise. Most people do not become wise quietly, easily, and quickly. Any comments on that? Why am I asking that? Because I want to help figure this out. The other part is raise your hand if you were ever a kid. Raise your hand if you're still a kid. Inside, yes. Who's been around kids in their, they finally figured out how to talk. What is their main objective? What is their number one question as kids?
Why?
Why? Why is the sky blue? Why is water wet? What? And they can why you right into oblivion. But the ones that learn how to ask the questions better become wise quicker.
Yes.
And that's something that needs to be learned and practiced and built upon our entire life. How many of you have had people that, shall we say, are not so well versed in properly asking questions?
Many.
Yeah, it seems more like an interrogation, or they ask questions that are so convoluted that you're trying to figure out what the actual question really is. Like,
Yeah.
or they ask questions that are so not, what would we say, not appropriate for the situation.
I think some of that comes from I guess they may be asking the question because they're looking for an answer. They're unclear about it, so they don't know how to phrase it because they don't have enough information around it, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And they're kind of just like spewing crap or something out, this confusion out of their head, rather than say, like, be honest. I'm unclear about this. I'm curious. I'm gonna ask this question and word it in a way that hopefully you get the meaning of what I'm looking for here.
Yes.
And of course, a big part of it is to listen well. How many people we know that, oh God, it's just so frustrating. They ask you a question and you start answering it. You're offering your experience or whatever, and your energy, and your answer, and they're asking another question.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Whoa, slow down. They're so confused and so frustrated, they can't stop and listen. They're going on to more confusion, another question.
Yes. They don't even know how to listen enough to learn.
Yeah.
Hence, their whys will never lead them to becoming wise.
Right.
And then they wonder why.
Mark.
Yeah, the couple of thoughts. The one of them was well, the first one was when a kid comes to you and says, "Hey, Dad, why? How does water put out fire?" You're allowed to say, "Geez, I don't know, son. Why don't you go find out? Come back and tell me, and then we'll both know."
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I said, some people, like you said, they're already, they ask a question and they're on to the next. There's no continuity because they're not listening to your answer. They're just spewing out more questions. But yeah, again, the art of the conversation might be a lost art.
The other part is now in this age of Google and AI,
Oh yeah.
you learn that you can ask the same question 8 different ways and come up with 8 different sets of results, which is finally, hopefully, kind of teaching people the better the question, the better the quality of the question, the better the quality of the answers.
Yep.
Take a little time to figure out the best way to ask the question. If you are one of those where people are constantly going, "What do you mean by that?" That might be a hint that it's time for you to practice asking your questions, keeping your questions a little more concise, and practice in your head. How many different ways can you ask the question? And another thing is to understand that sometimes you simply have to ask multiple questions to stepladder up to the question that you're trying to get to. And understand your audience. Who are you asking? That's the nice thing about having a really good tribe. Any other comments on that before we see if we can fit in another topic? This next, I'm going to move right in because this next one actually came out of the same conversation with Greg, Mr. Verbiage, and when you hear certain words such as conduit, and especially for anybody who's been around construction, electronics, anything in that era, you understand that a conduit allows a pathway to support, transport different types of energy, material, things of that nature. How else would you describe conduit?
A channel, a passage.
Channel, passage, those are good.
A way to get things from one place to another. A path.
Path. Anybody else got any stuff they can add while we're... Connection. That's a good one. And I'm sure you remember, Greg, when we were talking, we stumbled across the idea of you are the conduit oftentimes. Getting that information, sharing that information with other people, downloading the information from whatever location or source that you find it in. And in doing so properly, you find out that you can do it. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You are the conduit. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we have to remind people this information, whether you believe that, well, I looked it up. Well, I got it from somebody. The fact that you were able to realize you needed the information, you were able to find a source, you were able to download it and integrate it, obtain it,
Mm-hmm.
is a good reminder that yes, you can do it. You are the conduit. Anybody got any ahs, comments, epiphanies on that one?
We part of the conversation as we were speaking about, I had said that I believe that everything that we need is within us,
Yes.
right? Not necessarily the answer, but the knowing that the answer is either within you or that the conduit, that channel, that path to an answer starts with you.
Yeah.
You could pray about it, you could meditate about it, you could go to the internet, you could call a friend or your therapist or whatever. So everything that we need is definitely within us, but it starts with our, I think the word was intention.
Yes.
And knowing. I have an intention that here is something that's happening in my life, whatever it might be. And there's a question, there's a curiosity, confusion, frustration, whatever, to say, okay, this thing has an answer. I don't know what the answer is right now, but I know where it starts. It starts with me. It starts with me asking questions. It starts with me trusting. And knowing that, you'll get your answer. It may not be what you're expecting. It may be a surprise.
Yes.
But it is there, and it's nice to know that, because it just shows I'm a proponent for knowing that we are extremely powerful beings.
Yes.
Everything has ever been created in life. You look around, started with an idea, an intention, a purpose, and look at what mankind has done, and that always started within,
Yeah.
and the trust that I may not know what it is now, but I'm going to find an answer, and also that there is no direct path, right? You're going to take a fork this way. Oh shit, I didn't realize that. And be excited about that, welcome that, embrace the unknown pathway that you're on, and trust that you're being directed appropriately to find that answer. And don't resist. Oh, okay, I wasn't expecting this. What's here for me? What new questions do I need to answer? Because of course, every question usually turns into multiple questions.
Yeah.
More and more and more questions. So.
Yes.
Embrace the path, embrace the journey, and know that you're not doing this only for yourself. You're doing it for your family, your friends, and perhaps every living thing everywhere.
I just had one of my squirrels, for those of you that know me, a squirrel. My squirrels have squirrels who know squirrels who bring squirrels to join the conversation. And when you were talking about how you can get started with a question and it leads to more questions,
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was almost like a diamond. In fact, almost like a baseball diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start out with one question, but as you gather information, all of a sudden you've got more questions. And as you get to a certain peak, the questions now can become smaller, fewer, until you get to the epicenter of the answer. And in the middle, the pitcher's mound would be the topic. Here's what I want to know. I've got this question. Oh shit, now I can start focusing in more. Boom, I got the answer.
Yep.
And you can do it through the conduit. And Mark, for those of you watching, you don't get to see the comments. And Mark put in there, are we conduits for change in our work? And I agree with Michael. Yes, we are. That's a good portion of my work is questions. Well, who told you to think like that? What do you think about? What do you feel when you think about that stuff? And lots of questions. And I think tonight we got 8 minis left, which actually is about 7 minis. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm going to try and fit in 4 topics tonight, and I'm going to transition right into coaching judging. Coaching judging. And I have a lot of clients that come to me where they, especially when it comes to self-esteem, they feel very judged. Very judged. Oh, my mother always used to judge me, and people are always judging me, and I feel very judged, and all of the above. And even had a family member who wouldn't take on or wouldn't allow people to know that they had a close friend because they were afraid that they would be judged by others. And I've even had friends who went through a divorce, and part of why they refused to get another boyfriend was, oh, it's too soon, people would judge me. Oh, what would the people at church think? And one of my famous replies was, okay, church, are they churching or are they judging? Because you don't get to do both. But the other thing that I pointed out to one of my clients who was feeling very judged is, I said, I put you through a whole lot of stuff. I ask you a lot of questions. When I do that, do you feel judged or do you feel coached? And they went, oh, I feel coached. And I said, how different does that feel? And if you could allow yourself to tell yourself that you're not judging yourself, you're coaching yourself. Mm-hmm. Because part of the human experience, whether you like it or not, every human being judges.
Yep.
It's just part of the human condition. If you don't believe so, when I showed you my tie, you had an opinion. When you go into public, you're going to see some human being and have some judgment about them. Now, if you, instead of judging them, were looking at ways of coaching them, how different might your opinions become? What things may you think of instead?
Yeah.
And when it comes to yourself, if you utilize all the things that we've talked about tonight about changing, talking about yourself in first person to third person, and start asking questions to learn things to make you wiser, and realizing that you can do it because you are the conduit of the energies, the information, and all the above, how different might your life become if you just went about coaching yourself? Any comments, ahas, epiphanies on that one?
That sounds like a very important distinction, because if you're judging, there's not too far you can go.
Yeah.
Because judging, you're judging yourself, like, should I do this? A lot of people go, I do this all the time. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right here. Coaching is positive. It's a way to move forward. It's a way to understand. It's a way to allow yourself to make new choices and lose the judgment, because God knows if you're always judging yourself, that's like climbing Mount Everest in your bare feet. It's
Yeah.
it's painful, rather than, taking a walk around the edge of a lake in your bare feet.
Yes.
There's some place to go. It's gentle. It's powerful. It does take a bit of courage, because you're trying to overcome all of that static and the negativity and the judgment and the experience that you've had so far up until now, right? So it's hard to break that pattern. A lot of this has to do with self-respect, or what's the word? Respect, or knowing yourself, self-trust, I guess.
Self-trust, yes.
Right? You have the capacity to learn these things. You have the capacity to do this, but until you try it, like you're gonna keep judging and get blocked. You're just gonna get blocked all the time.
And I'm going to finish off the hour with one more. I'm just going to start calling these Duncanisms.
Vectorism.
Because we got so much stuff out of that one little conversation. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Dubbing worst case scenarios as scarios. Why are you wasting so much time and so much energy writing up so many scarios?
Yep.
How many of them have actually happened? A couple weeks ago we talked about Olympic level warriors. Scario at its best. Oh, what if? Oh, but if oh and oh, but if the oh and oh. There are so many better ways to utilize that energy to benefit yourself, those around you.
Yeah.
How many of you have ever been around an Olympic scale scario?
Oh, yeah.
That energy is very toxic and infectious.
And sad.
Yes. People wonder sometimes how I can just kind of just roll through life and be relaxed. And I think part of it, you'll see a number of people who aren't willing to feed into or create or entertain scarios, because we've been through enough stuff to realize it doesn't matter how many scarios you write. They're not. Life doesn't happen the way you plan it anyway.
Mm-mm.
There's always something, a little plot twist, left turn. One of our viewers out on YouTube sent me, I overthought my overthinking. Yeah, exactly. Scario definition 101. Overthinking, you're overthinking. Well, what if I'm not ready? It basically comes down to rehearsing the lines for a movie that you hope you are never going to star in, and worrying about whether or not you're going to get your lines right. And then finding out it's all improv anyway.
Right. Yep.
I had my lines perfect, and then the person that I rehearsed them for didn't even use their lines. They used something else, and I had to come up with something off the top of my head anyway, and I survived in the end.
And also one of the lessons right there is that if you have this thing prepped in your head, you can't really be present. You can't listen as much because you're ready for them to say the shit that you thought they were going to say, and they don't. And then you're like, oh, now you have to like go, oh, that's not working. Now what? Rather than just be open and free in the moment and go with the conversation.
And we're over our hour, so realistically, we're in your guys's scenario or in your time. But I'm going to throw this out there as a possibility if you want to play with it. When you're doing the scarios and rehearsing and all that stuff, are you manifesting bad stuff to happen? We'll leave it with that. For those of you that have joined in late, this is where we're changing things up. We're in the second hour, so it's open topic, open mic. Anybody on the call can ask a question or bring up a topic, and I have the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. So I'm just going to say, who's got a topic or a question to start us off in the second hour? Mark.
Yes, sir. I have a couple questions, but I'll start with this one. Maybe I'll get to the other one sometime later. But I saw a quote on the internet today, and it said, "When I woke up, I realized how many people are still asleep." And that was Leonardo da Vinci.
Wow.
So the question is, can we help people wake up? And I think people in this tribe are already awake.
Yes.
And but can we help people wake up? And how can we help people wake up? I'll just throw that out there.
Great question. Who's got an answer for that question?
Well, I can give it a shot.
Okay, please.
Again, because of the business I'm in, I meet a lot of people that come and go here all the time, and I go out a couple times a week too. So I have many opportunities to chat with people, during which time I often become a conduit, a channel for energy. And I realized a while back that I'm not attached to teaching them anything. It's not ego. I know that people are even unconsciously searching for themselves. They're searching for home. They're searching to know spirit, the truth, to be authentic. And I listen to them and I watch them, and I might just answer the best I know how. But I'm not attached to them doing anything. It's like, again, not for my ego. Like, I'm going to say something smart and profound, and they're going to suddenly get it and change their lives. Right? I think it's like, people need to know that they're not alone, that they're similar to everybody else, And TJ, you and I spoke about this as well. Sometimes I say things that to some might construe it as woo woo, right? We talked about this, but I know because I'm coming from my heart and not from my head when I'm speaking to people. I think there's more of a chance for them to get something that's going to be useful for them, an opening, because they may see me. Here's this guy, older guy. He's been around. He's established and so forth. He doesn't on the surface appear to be this woo-woo whatever type of person, because I speak with confidence and with experience and hopefully a bit of wisdom that I've acquired in my life. So I enjoy getting into conversations like that, and I have to remain somewhat detached, but I'm willing and I have an intention to be of greatest help and service to others that I can, again, without expecting them to get anything. I might plant a seed, I don't know, and then in 6 months or a year, that seed has blossomed, and they're doing something that they may not have done otherwise. I don't know about that, so I can have a trust that if I'm coming from my heart, then they may be getting something that will be useful to them in the future, perhaps. And at the same time, as most of the people in this group have experienced, is that there's a high level of sadness sometimes, because it's like when you know something and you know that it's beneficial and it works, and you feel the joy of yourself and your connection and your magnificence and your magic, this magic world that we live in. And you see people suffering by the choices that they're making, and usually nothing else. They're suffering on their own, and you can see that they don't get it. And you want them to get it because you got it, So it's like holding on to that sadness and knowing that it would be wonderful if I could change them in that moment. But I also know that everybody has to walk their own path and learn their own lessons based on, what they run into, who they run into, the lessons presented to them. So it's a balance, right? Of patience, consciousness, empathy, understanding, letting go, and not doing it for you necessarily. I mean, it feels good. You guys know that it feels good when you help other people. I mean, that is so rewarding. That's like a really great drug when you look at somebody's face and you realize that they got something.
Yes.
They can be stronger. They have found a little bit more of themselves, the positive, the strength, the power, the confidence, the authenticity. And you may have had a little bit something to do with that. It's not ego. It's like, oh, thank you, God, that I'm able to have the consciousness to do this, and then the consciousness to be able to put certain words together in ways that you think that party can hear it most clearly.
There.
Right?
Keep going. You're on a roll, brother.
And I know, I've been very, what's the word, since this morning, lucid. I feel like I'm high today. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but I've been doing this all day. So when you come from that place with people, their guards come down, because you're not trying to force them on anything. It's not their mother, their father, their wife or husband, or their kids telling them, "Oh, there you are doing that again." You're showing others how you've gotten to places by knowing yourself, finding yourself, having confidence in yourself, knowing the connection that you have with Source, and using that. Like, aren't we all agents of God here? Right?
Yeah.
I see things and I'm like, thank God that I have the wherewithal to recognize things and make a comment when it's necessary, or just listen when necessary, or like that's what I said, like really conduit, channel. I get into this place where I'm not thinking necessarily, I'm feeling and responding to people. And it's not all me. Like that, the book that I wrote with all those sayings in it, I don't really own them. They're not mine. I was in a place where they were out there in the ethers, and it just happened to be, I was conscious in the moment for whatever reason, and it came into my head and I wrote it down.
Yeah.
That's a gift.
Yeah.
So for you guys, that you are offering your gifts, your talents and abilities, your heart, your energy to your clients. And the reward is the good feeling. And knowing that those people need, want, desire to be more than they know themselves as they are right now. That perhaps like what they've been fed is a lot of what they've been fed is inaccurate, downright wrong, from parents, whatever, people that loved us, but they were misdirected and repeating the same crap generationally, the same thing. Money doesn't grow on trees, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff, So you're giving people an opportunity to find themselves and know themselves by watching what you're doing, right? Like, wow, look at this guy. It's like, I can hear what he's saying. Because you're connecting. I get to a point where I'm connecting soul to soul, not head to head, mind to mind, and it's wonderful.
And I think that is where some of the connection comes from, is your intention, but speaking soul to soul, and not just trying to figure out ways to manipulate somebody to do something because you think that their life would be better that way.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that come to me, and it's interesting. They'll come to me for this challenge, and while we're working to get to this challenge, all of a sudden we find this one and this one and this one, and this one over here. And I actually have to be cognizant enough to ask them, is this something that you want to take care of? Is this something that you would like to get rid of? Is this something that you would like to change? And it really does get to be fun, especially for my clients that, we'd never know how long we're going to be working together. And I've got a couple of clients that have been around for quite a while now. And because as they started to wake up and started seeing the change, they realized, I don't have to be the person that I used to be.
Bingo.
I get to become whoever I want.
Yep.
And in doing so, I think, especially those that have children, it's so enlightening when they say, at first my kids are like, what's going on? You're acting weird. And then weird becomes cool. And then cool becomes, you're the parent we always wanted. That's when it really becomes rewarding, because they learn how to talk with their children, not at them.
Mm-hmm. My 20-year-old son is at the dad, you're weird phase. I don't care. I can be bright and articulate and make sense and logical. Like, no, I'm still weird. I'm a boomer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there's me. Whole different category.
We have no label for you.
Yeah, well, triple T, we'll leave it at that.
All right.
And for those of you that joined in recently, again, we are in the second hour, so it's open mic, open platform. If you have a topic or a question that you, yes, Fran, we have missed you. Your absence has been quite noted. So thank you for showing up. And also to Elijah, not to discredit the rest of you showing up, but you got to understand that those two are in a different time zone, like a different time zone. So, much love. I titled this topic Wakers versus Sleepers. So if any of the rest of you have any input, ahas, epiphanies, feel free to join in. If not, if there's another question or topic that y'all would like to bring up and allow us to pontificate on, this would be a wonderful time to speak up, please. Good question, Elijah. Elijah asked, what's wakers versus sleepers? Mark, would you like to re-ask the question, or did you get it?
Elijah, I quoted Leonardo da Vinci when he said, when I woke up, I realized how many people are still asleep. So my question is, can we help people wake up, or how? Taking for granted that everybody on the podcast is already awake in our tribe, but how can we help people wake up?
Well, firstly, only if they ask. You know, I'm going to say something that someone very, very important in my life said to me once when I first learned some of this stuff, and I thought I could heal anybody and everybody. He said to me, it's not your place to save them, nor should you be expected to. They are not yours to heal and save. And the sad truth of it is, mate, you can't save them all.
No.
Some of them are just not ready to be woken up. Right? And that's not a disparagement or, I'm not looking down on them or whatever. But there are plenty people. And listen, there's another very famous saying, I'm sure you all know, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Right? And many of them may find themselves being happier asleep
Yes.
than we are awake. And that's okay.
Yep.
You know? So first and foremost, I would say, if somebody asks for your help, then by all means, do what you know how to do. But if you see someone and it's within your internal estimation that they are struggling and that you could help them, it's not your place. And it's really, really, really hard to come to terms with that. It really is, because I'm sure you want to do good and you want to share the magic that you've experienced yourself.
Yep.
Right? But it's just not, it's not your place.
I am so glad you brought that up, Elijah, because I've gone through that myself. And being a teacher and a trainer and working alongside Dr. David Snyder for as long as I did, I watched a number of students who got into this and were all excited because they were going to change the world. And when they realize that not everybody wants to wake up, and even those that wake up realize it can be lonelier and tougher once you wake up, because you see things that were around you the entire time. And you see how your friends and your family need some help. But we also find out really quick in this industry, the hardest people to help are friends and family. We can have a complete stranger come to us and go, I'm dealing with some stuff, and you can help them, and they're like, oh, thank you, and off they go, and you're like, but you're cool. Would you like to hang around? Well, no, I'm fixed now. And off they go. And in the comments here, Mike, great comment. As I woke up, I had to mourn the loss of who I could have been, and may I add, who I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a number of clients who didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm. And also who I thought I needed to turn into.
Yes. So thank you for bringing that up, Elijah. Major point in that part.
See, the thing is, right? I've had that seminar high, which I'm sure you all know very well. You go to see someone like David, someone like John, someone like Kenrick, someone like Richard, right? These like absolute beast mode gurus who know so much, and they can have massive impact on you and create these aha epiphany moments where your whole internal paradigm of organization shifts in the way you understand things. And you come home, or you go back to what your quote normal life afterwards. You start seeing things differently, and you want so much to like express this wonderful level up that you've had. But the moment you try to explain to someone what it is you now understand, it loses something the moment you verbalize it into words.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to attach a label to an experience. And the only way they're going to truly understand is if they themselves are able to have the experience. And so when it comes to help, let's assume now that my first objection to the question is okay, and that it is someone who's asking for help. It's not, we're not overstepping a boundary. It is someone who's asking for help, and you think, okay, I'm going to help them to quote wake up, which I don't really like that term either, but we'll go with it, right? It's much more important for you to lead them in a way so that they can have an experience on their own, rather than force feed them what you've learned from your experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about setting up the environment and setting up the pins and the dominoes in such a way so that they will proceed to knock them down sequentially and eventually have that aha moment themselves. Like, I would hate to ever rob someone of their aha moment, because I love my aha moments. They're like the best feeling I can have. So I would never try to explain it to someone, because that would be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But much more, but that again is part of the art form. You see, you meet different levels of people in this kind of work, and they're all really well meaning, and they're all super skilled at what they do. But for me, the true artistry of it is when it becomes somewhat invisible, what you're doing with your client, what you're doing with whomever you're coaching, right?
Mhm.
The hypnosis started long before they thought it did, and the change happened before they realized it did, and you never took any credit for any of it. They think they figured it out on their own.
Yes.
They think they figured it out on their own. They don't
Yep.
give you credit for it, and it's that to me is the perfect result,
Mm-hmm.
because I want them to bask in their own triumph and think that it was them who did it, not me.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I am with that stuff.
Awesome. Fran's got her hand up.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of thinking that a lot of this stuff and Elijah's wisdom, a lot of it's about holding your own space and your own energy. If you're able to raise your vibration and be the person, your best person, that can influence other people around you while they actually, their bodies, their energy fields attune to a harmonious or similar vibration that you're holding.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can be your best person, it helps other people be their best person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We've got so many good stuff, so much good stuff in the comments. Mr. V, I'll get to your question in a bit when we close this one up. Guillermo put in a great comment, said, I wake up because the universe called me to do it, and Triple T in this tribe is changing my identity. I can say this because you are giving the information and the experience, and now I'm processing and transforming my experience. Maybe I'm right, but I'm listening to your coaching, and I'm open and learning. Thank you so much, Guillermo.
Transforming.
Yes, and then Mike asked, then when the change high wears off in their own reality, they become lost? Anybody want to answer that one for Mike?
I don't really understand the question. I need clarification.
We had talked about how people go to these seminars or they get the big change and that important high hits, but when it wears off, do they go back? Do they become lost?
So this is something, right, that I've actually been through. Okay. Your environment is a very strong anchor, right? It will suck you back into your old reality if it can, if you allow it. And that's the key, if you allow it, right? One of the best things you can do after you've had a massive shift in yourself is to move some furniture around.
Yes.
Right? One of the best, like if your table is in the same place, your couch is in the same place, your TV's on the same wall, you will slip into old habits, bro. Right? One of the best things you can do is move some stuff around and put it where it doesn't belong.
Yep.
And remind yourself every day that things are different now.
Yep.
Okay? And another thing is like small, tiny ritual habits.
Yep.
Yeah, small, like the smaller, the easier, the better. You know? But you have to start building something new in order to replace what was old. Because you can't just take it away and then have nothing there because it's a vacuum.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
Many people, I had this wonderful session with someone earlier this year where they were trying to let go of something. This is the problem they were having, that they had this thing and they were having trouble letting go of it. And you know, it took some coaxing and a couple of sessions, and eventually I got them to a point where they felt compelled to reach and grab for what they really wanted. And in the moment they grabbed for what they wanted, they automatically let go of what they didn't want because they couldn't hold both.
Yes.
So it's not so much about stopping trying to do what you don't want, but rather starting to do what you do want.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you only have so much capacity within your mental and your emotional, and even in your physical. So if you zero in on what you really want and go for that, and even if it's the tiniest step,
Yep.
you will eventually not have enough space for that negativity anymore. You just fill your head with shit that you want. I know it sounds awfully simple,
Yep.
but the fact of the matter is, guys, it's not that complicated. Follow your bliss. That's what Abraham Hicks said, right? Follow your bliss,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Include more of what you want, and what you don't want and what you've been trying to get rid of all this time will automatically go away because there won't be enough space left for it.
And mix with wonderful people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen.
Pay very close attention to who you hang around with. I've seen it so many times, and it's true enough to be true. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Mm-hmm.
You hang around with 5 broke people, you're the 6th. You hang around 5 depressed people, you're the 6th. But it also works the other way. Start hanging around with happy people, you become the 6th. They've even proven if you hang around rich people, it doesn't take long before you start making a lot more money because of the energy and the mindset of being around those type of people. And Fran, great comment in the comments that you learn so much from your clients' struggles.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how many times I'm sitting there working with a client, and all of a sudden I'm giving them advice, going, "That sounds a little familiar." Why did the universe send me this one? Because I've kind of been struggling with this one. That's how I know it so well.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you all about the ways that you should fix this that I haven't done before. Cool.
I would imagine that for some people, like you were saying, Elijah, is that you have to, change things around. One is if you're with toxic people giving off that energy, you have to either let them, or both, let them go and find new people to hang around with. I think a lot of people, a lot of this comes down to strength and courage that we're trying to get to that people don't know they have. So it takes courage. Like, okay, I'm hanging with these 5 toxic people, but yet I don't know anybody else because this is my peer group. I don't know any group. So if I leave the comfort of this group, that primal thing, I leave the comfort of this group, then I'm on my own. Not realizing that is a very, very, I recommend this for everybody on the planet. Be alone. That's really where so much of this work is done, is by yourself. But it has to begin with, like, you have to trust that you can do. You have to trust you have what it takes. You have to dig deep and bring out the courage, right? Being alone, I mean, that's tough, So I think a lot of people, in the beginning anyway, a lot of people go, well, I'd rather hang out with this toxic group because at least it's a group and I get to play and have a good time, and I get to do what they do, and I can be silly and goofy even though I know it doesn't feel good, because they're bringing me down, or at least not allowing me to rise above. So how would you guys offer assistance to your clients in that regard when they admit that they're with a group of people they know is not helping them, what would you advise them to do? To be alone, or to like go to a meetup with, you know, a group or something?
I think all of the above, but also like you shouldn't hang around with toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, recognize toxicity,
Yes.
right? Because it comes disguised, guys. Toxicity comes disguised,
Oh, hell yeah.
right? It's insidious,
It really
right?
is.
Okay, so recognize that first of all. Minimize where possible. Obviously, it's not always possible, because especially if it's really close, if it's family, if it's lifelong friends, you know, you can't just ditch them. Like, it's kind of, you know, sometimes it's more complicated, and I acknowledge that. But yes, do go to things that you like. You know, if you like motorcycles, then go to a motorcycle meetup. And you will find people who like the things you like, and it's very easy to strike up a conversation. If you really love fine wine, go to a wine tasting. If you really love books, go to a book reading or something, right? So all of that is also true, and I agree with all that too. The other thing I will say is it does come down a little bit to a frame war, right? Now, I don't know how much people here know about frames and frame wars, but if you imagine a frame is like your point of view or your opinion or your worldview or the stance that you're taking within an interaction, right? So the other person has their frame and you have your frame, and we're saying, for the sake of argument, we're saying that the other person is somewhat toxic, and you know, you're trying to inoculate yourself from toxicity, right?
Yep.
So the person who holds their own frame, the strongest and the longest, always wins.
Yep.
Always. And the stronger frame absorbs the weaker frame, always. Right? And so it's about you believing more strongly, with more conviction, in your own worldview than they believe in their worldview, which is, quote, toxic. Right? And the way to believe it strongly and hold it for longer is to use physiology, to use your body posture.
Yes.
Stand straight and to breathe full, and to, you know, because the moment you start contracting and you curl up into a little ball, or you don't have that body language, they're going to run all over you. They're going to be stronger than you. Their opinion is going to carry more weight. But if you're a little bit relaxed in your shoulders, if your chest is out a little bit, and I'm talking, and when I say chest is out, I don't mean go around like pushing your boobs at everyone, right? I'm talking about like a 2 millimeter shift.
Yeah.
1 millimeter, 2 millimeter shift. But you will feel it, and they will feel it. The whole room will feel it. Okay? It is possible, guys. It is possible to be so certain in what you're saying that you could blow away someone else's uncertainty. Right?
Yep.
It's that possible.
Yep.
It's contagious.
Yep.
And the same insidiousness that I was talking about the toxicity, how it can creep up on you, your positivity can creep up on them.
Right.
It works both ways. So remember that it's a bit of a frame war, and to hold your physiology and be strong within yourself, within your conviction. You know, and realize when it's not working to just walk away.
Yes, that's key.
Yep.
Right? Because there's no point. Again, coming back to the very first thing I said with the first question, which was, it's not your place. It's not your place to change them. If you disagree, you disagree. It's all right to disagree with people. You
Yep.
know? So, yeah, all the stuff you said, Greg, plus, you know, physiology to win your frame war.
I agree 100%. And like you said before, it's not even like, it could be a millimeter or two, but if you just get the thought, get the intention, like your energy is different, right? you could puff up a little bit, you could stand up more straight, your chest could come out, your head could rise up a little bit. That begins with the intention. It may not even be apparent to others other than energetically. And then it
Agreed.
grows to something better, bigger.
So many good things. Holly's got her hand up.
Hi, Holly.
Hello? Can you hear me?
No.
Hello?
A little low, but we can hear you.
Is that any better?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I've been having tech issues all day, as you probably have noticed. I love this conversation, by the way. One thing that keeps running through my mind is I think we both overestimate and underestimate our ability to influence others.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if somebody is not ready to change, it's not the right time, it's not the right place, you're not the right person, you know, you could do all the things right and it's not going to make a difference. But if they're in the place where they're primed for whatever you're willing to give them, sometimes somebody walking by somebody and giving them a smile for 2 seconds could be life-changing for them. So, don't ever underestimate it. If, you're the person who's supposed to influence them and you're there at the time that they're primed, be the person who is ready to go and who is that, you live your life in a way that if somebody needs it, you're going to project it. But also live your life in a way that you say, hey, if they're not ready, I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor their timing. I'm going to love them anyway. I'm not going to judge them. I know that I have my own things that maybe I'm not ready to grow yet. Maybe they're growing in a different way, and that's okay. And protect yourself. So, if they're hurting you, that's totally different. But, do that balance. As Elijah's been saying, it's not your responsibility. It's not your job. And if it's not time, don't push it. You're just going to make it harder. You're going to make them dig their heels in more because they're going to become defensive, if anything. But live your life so that if they're ready, there'll be no question that the energy that they need will shine through you. And if they're not, it will still shine through you. They just may not be aware of it yet.
Bingo.
Yep. Great stuff as always. Thank you for sharing that. Such a lot of good stuff in here. One other thing that came to mind was a little bit of information about dating on an Instagram reel where it stated
Be
that...
careful with the kids.
What's that? Huh? Okay. One of the things that it stated was time is a dangerous commodity both ways in dating, because a number of people will hang around thinking that it'll get better. And the more time they spend with somebody, the more obligated they feel towards hanging around.
Yeah. Yep.
And just like with building a tribe, or one of the great things about moving, I've moved a lot. Mom will tell you, right, Mom? I've lived in a lot of different places, and you have the ability to reinvent yourself. But a lot of people forget that. They bring the old personality and the old luggage with them, because as long as we're moving, better not leave this luggage back there, even though it was heavy and didn't serve me. And then they show all the new people all their old luggage.
Yeah.
And you have the ability, that's where it can get a little, it's harder when you can't move, because you have to figure out how to isolate yourself from the toxic people while searching for the new tribe. And it's almost like finding your new spouse right after a divorce in a small town because your toxic friends see you out with your new friends going, hey, what's up? Ain't seen you for a while. Let's hang on. Who's this new friend? And do you want to be friends with us? And you're like, you don't want to be friends with them. No, we got to go. So, Fran.
I was reminded by what you said of a friend who had a friend who used to make a habit of going to a lot of different parties. And at each party, they would become a completely different personality for the span of that party, just to experiment what it was like to be in all these different shoes. I think that's a really useful skill to be able to have, that if you can totally switch personalities and backgrounds just in your imagination and actually act it out in real life where it has no consequences because you're probably not going to see these people again.
Yes, especially when traveling. I was a member of an invite-only travel club, and I met a couple of people that was part of their travels. They would make up new identities for each other and then travel to this resort and play that person the whole time. And they had a blast because they didn't even have to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You get a holiday from yourself as well.
Yes, 100%.
Yep.
Have you all seen Fight Club?
Sure.
You've never watched Fight Club? Fight Club is a great movie, and it's all about that identity and being someone else and all that. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first rule of Fight Club?
Be quiet.
Well, we're running down on time, and I promised Mr. B that I would bring up his question to see what the answer was, because it was a good question. And his question was, has there been a discussion of natural law, that we are all born with the natural instinct of already knowing what is right and what is wrong? I'll read it again. Has there been a discussion of natural law, that we are all born with the natural instinct of already knowing what is right and what is wrong? Who's got an answer for Mr. B?
So I will try. Sorry. I didn't raise my hand. I feel bad. Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
I will try. I think so, but maybe not entirely, maybe somewhat. I think there's a few different levels to language, and one of the highest levels or deepest levels, depending which way you look at it, is that no matter where you are in the world, laughter means the same thing. Crying means the same thing, right? You see someone else crying, you know immediately what it means, and you can tell the difference instinctively between happy tears and sad tears. When someone's laughing, you know exactly what it means. And so the reason you know what it means is because you yourself have experienced laughter and tears and things like that, right? And so through that kind of empathy and observation of another, knowing what it would be like for you to experience it on the inside through, like, your mirror neurons and all that kind of stuff, I think you do inherently have a sense of what's right and wrong because of how it would make you feel had you been in their shoes. And so you do have some idea of that right from the very beginning. And then the distinctions and the finer things, I think you learn more over time.
Great answer. And Mark had his hand up.
Yeah, thing that popped into mind was another question I was pondering is, again, the idea of right and wrong is binary thinking. And some people are so rigid into it. Everything is either right or wrong. Again, we tend to fall into that, that idea that things are either right or they're wrong, but things are never 100% right or 100% wrong. Adults know that things are mostly right and occasionally wrong. Killing is wrong. Okay, well, what if you and your family are threatened and you have a gun, and take away all doubt, you're going to kill but you just said killing is wrong. So killing is wrong most of the time. So yeah, this binary thinking is kind of like endemic to our world, but I think we might become moving beyond that with going into a quantum world and quantum thinking to evolve beyond our binary thinking of things being right or wrong, or again. So I think that might be we have to move beyond our binary thinking in terms of gender and things like that, because but we're entering a quantum world where we have to engage in quantum thinking. Is that but to say something is natural wrong, the thing now that we know if something is wrong, we know things are mostly wrong and some things are mostly right. So
Yep.
but I think we're slowly evolving beyond this binary thinking.
There you go. Fran.
Yeah, well, I mean, if born into it, that's different. There is nature versus nurture that really is coming up. And some people are born more dominant and some people are perhaps born less dominant. But it's the first 5 years that really shape our behavior and our social group. We are a social animal as humans. We have to fit into the social group to survive. So survival is the biggest driver. And kids that are, for the first 5 years, if you find that being pushy gives you what you want, because you don't have a conscience for the first 5 years or so. So a lot of patterning develops in the first 5 years. There's a certain amount of cause and effect. If you're going to behave that in a way that doesn't fit in with the group, you may not survive in the most primitive form. So you have to conform to the group to survive. And our biggest driver is survival. So I think that our first 5 years are the most crucial in developing our social conscience, in developing our behaviors. I guess that's what I want to say. Thanks.
Well, and when you were saying that, what came to mind was, if you think that we're born knowing right and wrong, leave a 2-year-old in a room with a cat. Holly.
So interesting thought. So just real quick, I know I've mentioned it before, but there's the three most prominent theories for a while there were Tom Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and John Locke. So you had basically your noble savage idea, which is everyone's born amazing, and then society corrupts them. And then you've got the blank slate theory that you're not good or bad; it's society just imprints on you. And then you've also got the theory that everybody is basically evil and society tames them. And I think that there's a little bit of truth in all three theories, and I don't think any of those three theories are complete. My personal theory is, that we're a product of, first of all, I think past lives, whether we realize it or not, are in there. Now, when they come out, who knows? Our past biology, our genetics that have been handed down. The number of things that we've maybe inherited from our great-grandparents, our great-great-grandparents, I think we may underestimate that. I think we're a product of what we eat, the food, the water we take in. I think that all energetically imprints on us. And also the decisions that we make, I think, is a very huge thing. But one of the main things, I think almost everyone has something inside of them that gives them some feeling of right or wrong. It doesn't mean it necessarily also is the same thing. But and it may not come to pass, when you're like six months old. It may have to be, more like 10 years old or something. How much of that was burned into you, how much of that is your past lives are starting to come back to you, how much, like, I don't know. But I do think that there are different levels, and we unlock different levels based on what we do. So right and wrong, for a 2-year-old is going to be very, very different than right and wrong for someone who is, 42 years old. And it's going to depend on what are your life experiences. I personally, I think that, the more good you do, the more responsibility you earn. But if you live up to it, you earn more responsibility, which comes with good things, but it also comes with responsibility. But if you don't live up to the responsibility and prove you can't do it, maybe you drop down to a lower energy level where you can be responsible enough to live in that level, but you miss out on stuff. So yeah, I do think there's some basic stuff, but there's definitely, if you don't invest in it, if you don't learn from it, if you don't grow to the next level, you always are unlocking new subtleties, just think, is there something when you were 12 years old that you thought was right, black and white, that you understand maybe different nuances, different levels, different concepts, different, what's the word I'm looking for, places that you could be in, that it would be different. And some of those were already mentioned, So I don't think we're born necessarily, we're not where we were born. We might fall levels, we might grow levels. But I do think that there is something that's outside of all that too.
Great answers as always. Thank you, Holly. And Mr. V brought up a couple of things in the comments again. How do animals in nature know how to give birth without being taught by their surroundings? Natural law is that same instinct. Well, the first thing that came to mind on that was, well, if you watch Blue Lagoon, even humans can figure out how to give birth without having others being around to teach them. Just saying. And can the spirit install what is right and wrong outside of taught social laws? And Fran, you want to comment on that outside of the comments in there?
I think this comes more as an adult perspective, maybe, or certainly over 5 years old. But some people are more open to it and some people are less open to it. Some people, if spirit and energy, whatever you like to call it, makes their impression known upon people, some people listen, some people don't, some people can hear, some people can't. So I think that's very much down to the individual's ability to hear and listen.
Great answer. Holly.
Sorry, really fast. Also, I think there's a difference between understanding the spirit of the law and the letter of the law.
Ooh. You want to explain a little bit more on that while we're at it?
Oh, in the 2 minutes we got left.
We
Just
got
really, I'm an accountant. I trained in accounting, and one of the things we talk about is principles-based accounting and rules-based accounting. And, some people are really good at memorizing all the rules, and I'm going to, dot all my I's, cross all my T's. But a good example would be you come to an intersection with stop signs, right? What are the rules? I stop, they go, this is the order we go in. You might be an expert in that procedure. But what happens when you're in a really sleek snowstorm and there's a big hill going down? You got to understand the whole principle is, the goal is we don't want to crash into each other because we're going different directions. And if you understand the spirit of the law, when you see that car that loses control and slides through the intersection, you're not going to say, oh, you broke the rules. You're going to say, oh, thank goodness I was paying attention and stopped and listened to the spirit of the law, and we didn't collide because I was paying attention.
And those of us who grew up in Minnesota or places like that know exactly what you're talking about. Doesn't matter what the law says. We just need to survive. Elijah, the last comment of the
Yeah,
night.
just agreeing really that, if you look at many of the big high profile cases in law, a lot of the times the lawyers are not arguing what the law says, but rather what was the intention when this law was made,
There.
and did the person break that rather than the what was actually written. what's the intention of the law, and you can I don't know what the correct phrase is, but you can some people might call it, oh, you won on a technicality, or they might say like, oh, you got away with one. But when you really look at it much more deeply, it's way beyond like, oh, you ran a red light, but it's like, oh, there was an ambulance behind me with sirens. I had to run the red light, kind of thing. I needed to get out of the way because someone's life was in danger, or that kind of. So, what was the intention behind the law, and was there a reasonable reason to sort of tread that line as closely as you did, or perhaps even break it,
Great stuff. Great way to finish off. 2 hours of Triple T, number 236. Wow. For those of you that started off with us 2 hours ago, I wasn't quite sure how many were going to show up or not. It was just Mark and I starting it out, and then thank goodness y'all showed up and helped make this another great episode. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, I get to say, love you, Mom, and love the rest of you as well. It's time for us to go. Thank you so much for giving up your precious commodity of time, and I hope to see your beautiful smiling faces back here in 7 days. Until then, go out and live life as full as possible. If there's anything we can help you with, feel free to reach out to us. In fact, please reach out to us. We just want to help everybody live as good as possible. That being said, love you guys. See you next week.
Yes, all have a good night.
All right, guys.
Good night, all.